and welcome to Undivided. I'm Brandi Kruse. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. Coming up on the show today, undeniable proof, I tell you, undeniable proof that the homeless crisis will not be solved by more housing. Plus, the media is ramping up its COVID-19 fear-mongering. Brace yourself. And if you are proud of your physical fitness, you might just be right-wing. Yes, according to Politico, you might just be right-wing. So for those of you who really like posting gym selfies, be advised that Politico thinks you're right-wing. We'll talk about all of that and more coming up. But first, if you have not become a subscriber to the show already, please do so. Help support our mission and our movement to give common sense a comeback and keep us independent for $5 a month. undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. How many times have we heard it? How many times have we heard that housing is the solution to homelessness? It has been unequivocal from politicians in this state and from entities tasked with solving the homelessness crisis that they say, give us more money to build more housing, and we will combat the homelessness crisis. Jay Inslee, when he gave his previous State of the State address, he made it very clear what he thought the main cause of homelessness was.
The fundamental underlying challenge is that we do not have enough housing in our state for our people.
The fundamental underlying challenge that leads us to the homeless crisis that we're in, according to our governor, is that we do not have enough housing for the people. Of course, when he said that, the governor was pushing a $4 billion housing plan. We've also heard this over and over from the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, the authority that spends hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money but has nothing to show for it. They have said on multiple occasions in posts on social media, housing solves homelessness. They have said on other occasions, they've even tried to make you feel guilty. Well, if you don't want to see more tents in your neighborhood, they've said, well, then we got to give these people a place to live. If you're saying we can't have them sleeping in tents, in parks, and on sidewalks, well, maybe you let them sleep in your apartment. Maybe if you're a landlord, you give them a place to stay. And then there won't be so many tents on our sidewalks. They have been very clear what they believe the solution to this growing homelessness crisis is. But I will tell you this, there is a report out today from our friend Jonathan Cho at Discovery Institute. He teamed up with our friend Ari Hoffman over at 570 KVI. And this report, I really believe, puts to bed once and for all the notion that providing more housing in our cities, in the county, across the state, is going to get us out of this homelessness crisis. So King County launched a program. I'll give you a little bit of background, and then I want to play Jonathan Cho's story for you, because I really think it is the smoking gun here. King County put forth a program and said to landlords, hey, we're going to give you some incentives, essentially, if you provide units that we can use to house formerly homeless people, to be able to get them out of tent cities, etc. So that sounds good, right? Like if you've got, hey, landlords who are like, absolutely, I've got some units, I'll get incentives from the county, and then we're increasing the number of available housing units, and it's a win-win for society, right? I get money from the county, people get off the streets. Well, the program went about as well as you think it would have gone. And again, I think it is the smoking gun for why housing is not the solution to homelessness. Here is the story from our friend Jonathan Cho.
Housing saves lives.
They keep saying affordable housing.
We must make it affordable.
Will be key to solving the homeless crisis.
Every person can have a roof over their head.
That's why the King County Regional Homelessness Authority launched a landlord incentive program last year with tons of fanfare.
A new program announced today in an effort to end homelessness.
Rent units to the homeless, and all the worries about being paid on time and even resolving tenant-landlord disputes would no longer be an issue.
The landlords would get $1,800 per unit up front.
A win-win for everyone involved.
They are ready to go, move-in ready.
That's why Osho Berman was preparing to offer KCRHA multiple apartments.
From North Seattle to South Seattle.
But then he got this email response saying, we have a number of incentivized units similar to yours and in the same area that we have not been able to rent to our participants. I don't think we can move forward with the incentive at that time.
And no thank you.
53,000 people experienced homelessness in the county in 2022.
That's former KCRHA CEO Mark Dones in a promo video earlier this summer, touting his 5-year plan and the need for more affordable housing.
And yet the very program that's running this is telling us they don't need any more housing units. Something seemed terribly wrong.
KVI Radio's Ari Hoffman and I started looking into these concerns.
With the plan in place,
We asked the agency's interim CEO, Helen Howell, for a sit-down interview, but she never got back to us.
Would you please call the roll?
We also reached out to the entire governing committee, which includes Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell.
We're also engaging with faith-based communities.
And King County Executive Dow Constantine.
Since then, we have purchased 10 more properties.
They're responsible for KCRHA's oversight and budget approval process.
Call this meeting to order.
Only Constantine's spokesperson returned our request for comment and responded with a snide remark that reads in part, "If I were you, I'd maybe contact the organization that works on that project to get your facts before starting to dispense your opinions, which don't seem to be rooted in the details." Problem is, a spokesperson with KCRHA did not answer all our questions. For example, why is it so difficult to rent out these incentivized units? How many landlords have been turned away? And how much has this program cost so far?
Get out of my face with the fucking camera!
Interestingly enough, the agency spokesperson did say the program was still active and will consider working with Berman in the future, but did not provide a timeline on when he could start applying again. Since the program was announced back in 2022, only 16 homeless people have been placed into these incentivized units, with 11 landlords participating in the program, falling far short of KCRHA's stated goal of wanting to secure 800 rental apartments.
I have clients that I would like to place in those.
Mike Mathias is the founder of homeless outreach group Anything Helps.
I mean, I want the KCRHA to succeed,
but says it's evident
it can't be a good sign.
The primary organization responsible for deploying millions of dollars and getting the homeless off the streets,
You know, we don't really know the operational challenges that they're experiencing.
continues to struggle with logistics and transparency.
It's really difficult to get a handle on what's really going on.
We can and will do better.
The program was funded by Partnership for Zero, a public and private alliance partially funded by philanthropies like Ballmer Group and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But Berman is starting to wonder if KCRHA will ever come through.
This is only increasing my concerns about how we're handling the homeless problems in Seattle.
That again is our friend Jonathan Cho for Discovery Institute, fixhomelessness.org, teaming up with our friend Ari Hoffman over at KVI. Thank God somebody will cover this stuff. How can you watch that and still believe that housing is the solution to the homeless crisis? I don't understand how it would be possible. We have King County Executive Dow Constantine spending tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to buy these homeless hotels. Some of them sit vacant and haven't been used. You have landlords that are offering on a silver platter their rental units to the King County Regional Homeless Authority, and they're being turned away. The Regional Homeless Authority saying they wanted about 800 units to be available as part of this program with landlords, and they've been able to place what? They said 16 homeless people, and at the same time, they are still turning landlords away. Jonathan Cho goes to the county with very reasonable questions. How many landlords have been turned away? Being one of the glaring questions. And he gets a sassy, snide remark from what has to be the worst government spokesperson in the entire state, someone who is paid with your money to insult, to deflect reasonable questions from journalists who are trying to get answers as to what the heck is going on with this program. It's unbelievable to me that anyone, right, left, or center, would continue to buy into the narrative, the lie, not the narrative, the lie, and we will call it on the show from this moment forth a lie, that more housing units will solve our homelessness crisis. They are not filling the housing units they already have. They're not filling the hotels. They're turning away landlords who come to them and offer them available units. Housing is not a solution to homelessness. Dealing with the drug crisis, dealing with our state's broken mental health system is the first step to being able to get people off the streets. Again, it is a lie. I refuse to continue to call it a misnomer. It is a lie that you have any significant number at all of people living on our streets who are there simply for financial reasons, who were doing just fine, had a full-time job, had an apartment or a home, and then lost it simply due to financial reasons and went straight to living on the streets. Are there maybe a couple stories like that? Sure. But it is the exception, not the rule. It is a lie for them to continue to say, as they have from the governor all the way down, that if we simply spent more money, if we simply had more money to build more housing units, to get landlords on board, if we had more landlords willing to chip in, that we wouldn't see encampments in every open space in the city. Shame on them. And shame on Chase Gallagher, and I will name him just like Jonathan Cho did, who is a spokesperson for the King County Executive. Shame on him for not being willing to answer reasonable questions that are being asked on behalf of the taxpayers, the very same people who pay your salary. Shame on you. And we look forward to getting some follow-up answers from the county on this. But again, this is the smoking gun. This is the smoking gun in case you ever needed it. And if you are, again, a Democrat or a progressive who continues to buy into this notion that housing will solve homelessness, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you've seen that would lead you to believe at this stage that that is the answer. All right, coming up next, speaking of the drug crisis, we talked about how the fentanyl crisis in Washington state is worse than any other state in the nation. There was a major drug bust. The guy allegedly responsible for trafficking those narcotics got a slap on the wrist when it comes to bail. Surprise, surprise. But first, we've been talking about our friends at FirstMark Insurance, firstmarkinsurance.com. Mike and I are now members of the FirstMark family. We took the FirstMark Challenge back in the spring, and we are loving not only the insurance coverage that we have, but also the price and the service. We really hit the trifecta with FirstMark. Dave Taylor is the CEO of FirstMark, and he joined us to explain what the FirstMark Challenge does.
We believe and we say that we will help 100% of the people that we work with. Okay. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that 100% of the people we work with are going to become FirstMark clients, but we believe that we will actually help 100% of the people, whether that be stay with your current carrier, but let's modify your coverage a bit so you're better protected, or ultimately, hopefully come over to FirstMark. We're going to put you with a different company and give you better coverage, right? So the challenge is really challenging individuals to give us an opportunity to prove that to them. That's really what the FirstMark Challenge is.
Yeah, and the FirstMark Challenge doesn't cost you anything. It just costs you a little bit of time. And I would say it is absolutely worth checking it out. So firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. Take the FirstMark Challenge. They work for you. Okay, there was a major drug bust up in Shoreline, which if you're not familiar is just north of Seattle. This is the information that King County provided when they're not busy absconding the media, putting out their own press releases. At least they provide some information that way. So they said $1.2 million in narcotics blocked by Shoreline Police and King County Sheriff's Office, keeping nearly 300,000 fentanyl pills off the street. I have to say that canines that do these drug busts, oh my God, they're so cute. Such
cute.
A good boy or girl. Oh my gosh, adorable. So just take a minute
I think.
before we get into the sad frustration and anger of this story. Good boy or girl. Good doggy. Anyway, so a little details about this because the bail set for the guy who was arrested in this is egregious. It's egregious. And this should not be divisive. You know, when you're trafficking fentanyl, every one of those pills has the potential to kill someone. So when I think of a drug trafficker, I think of like a potential mass murderer because you are delivering those drugs to the dealers who are going to sell them to people who are going to die when they take them. So the idea that someone who's a drug trafficker in our state would get $10,000 bail is insane. That should not be politically divisive. But let me get to some details first. So the individual arrested, Armando Castro Zavala, according to the sheriff's office, they had him under surveillance. They ended up pulling him over. He cooperates. They had a stolen gun with him. This is odd. He willingly escorted officers back to his house. And in his house, they found 1 pound of cocaine, 5.7 pounds of heroin, $52,000 in cash, 9.5 pounds of fentanyl powder, and 290,000 fentanyl pills. Okay? Again, when I think of that, when you hear 290,000 fentanyl pills, you should think 290,000 potential homicides. Like, this stuff needs to be taken and treated with the seriousness that it deserves. But apparently our criminal justice system doesn't understand that, because this guy goes into his first appearance, August 4th. The King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office asked that the defendant be held on $50,000 bail, which I tend to think is actually pretty light. $50,000 bail, that means you can get out with $5,000 cash. That doesn't seem like enough for me, considering the involvement here. But the court doesn't give prosecutors the $50,000 bail that they wanted. They set for this guy, who again was trafficking enough drugs to kill like every person in Seattle proper. They give him $10,000 bail. $10,000 bail. And I should also point out, I had mentioned he has a stolen gun. We see this over and over when you have actual criminals who use guns to commit crimes, stolen guns, for instance. We're in this county where they say, oh, we care about gun violence. They want to pass gun control. Then you've got a drug trafficker of the most deadly drug out there on our streets right now, caught with 290,000 pills in possession of a stolen firearm. And a court gives him $10,000 bail. $10,000 bail. And we wonder why the Mexican drug cartel is trafficking drugs through our state. Because people get a slap on the wrist if they're even caught in the first place. Why would you not traffic drugs through a state where our lawmakers, the Democrats in Olympia, in their infinite wisdom, made it and have made it nearly impossible for police to pull over anyone? So if I'm a member of the drug cartel, I'm like, yeah, send our guys up to Washington State. Somebody tries to pull them over, just drive away. And hey, if they happen to get caught, they're just going to get a slap on the wrist when it comes to bail. They'll be out before we know it, and we'll have them back across the Mexican border. Again, that is the best. Washington State is the best business investment that a cartel leader could ask for. Send your drugs here. We might as well have a big freaking billboard at every highway going into Washington State. Drugs welcome. Come on, bring them on in. Because that's what we're doing through our words and our actions. And that is what our criminal justice system is showing the drug cartel. So I don't want to hear jack about how our elected leaders, Dow Constantine put out a tweet about this drug bust. I don't want to hear jack from Dow Constantine. I don't want to hear jack from Jay Inslee. I don't want to hear jack from Democrats in Olympia about how the fentanyl crisis is a scourge on society. Because all of your actions and policies and laws are making it more likely that that scourge plays out with dead people on the streets. How ridiculous are all of you? How absolutely absurd. And just to throw it in, there was another baby that died from a fentanyl exposure. This one happened in Shoreline. The article from Cairo 7, police investigate if 16-month-old died from fentanyl. So I should say they're still investigating it, but it's suspected. It says, as King County announces a major drug bust, evidence is mounting that the victims of fentanyl are getting younger. Now a 16-month-old Shoreline girl may have died in June due to a fentanyl exposure. And I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the case. We've heard about multiple stories like that. Fentanyl kills you with the smallest amount, the size of the point of a pin. And we let some guy with 290,000 fentanyl pills and 9.5 pounds of fentanyl powder and a stolen gun, we let him post $10,000 bail. Again, and I know there's people who watch me in Seattle and like, oh, she's so right-wing. What's right-wing about this? What's right-wing? What's Republican? If it is a Republican thought that we should be holding people in jail on more bail who bring enough drugs into our communities to kill every person, then sign me up. I'll be right-wing all day. If it's a right-wing idea, mindset to say, no, we can't just throw housing at the homeless crisis in Seattle. We've seen that there are empty housing units and we still have a homeless crisis, so maybe we should focus on substance abuse and mental health issues. If that's a right-wing concept, sign me up every freaking day of the week, because that's absurd. This stuff shouldn't be politically divisive. And it is the ideology, the unflinching ideology of the people who we have put into office that is responsible for all of this. It does not have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. And it is, and it's getting worse, and we keep putting people who either are the same people or share the same ideology back in these positions, and we expect different results. It's insane. It is insane, and people are dying. And again, you do not give up. No swearing. I'm not giving $20 to the swear jar. You don't care. You don't care. Jay Inslee, Bruce Harrell, Dow Constantine, Democrats in Olympia. You do not care about a 16-month-old who dies of a suspected fentanyl exposure. You do not care about the homeless people who are laying out on the sidewalk in 3rd Avenue, their skin turning gray, clinging to life from a fentanyl overdose. You don't give a damn about them. Because if you did, you would look at what is true, what is common sense, and you would change your policies and practices, but you refuse to. For what? For what? A small fringe of your base that doesn't want to see you put people who use drugs in jail, that doesn't want to see you put a drug trafficker in jail. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Honestly, these deaths are on your hands. All right, coming up next in our segment, Unbelievable, I don't know if you've noticed it, but there is a sudden uptick in news stories on the a new COVID variant, and apparently we all need to be gearing back up to put masks on, so we'll discuss some recent articles. But first, we've been talking about our friend Wes Jones, sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com, a wonderful real estate agent in our area, and you are going to get stuff from Wes Jones and his team that you're not going to find anywhere else, like the Listing Boost Concierge Service. Wes Jones came in and explained it for us.
So we're going to come in, number one, and we're going to inspect a home, do a pre-inspection. We're going to find out all those little hidden bugs that, a buyer may be concerned with. And if a seller wants to do some cosmetic updates, whether it's flooring, whether it's lighting, countertops, even a kitchen, we're going to help guide them through that. So the Listing Boost Concierge Service, what we can do is we can project manage those rehab projects. We have a list of contractors and preferred vendors that we like to work with and have a ton of experience with, and we'll take that off a seller's hands. We'll go ahead and run that project for them, and we even have some options where they can pay at closing out of their net proceeds.
Yeah, how cool is that? It takes a whole lot of stress out of the process. And Wes said he's the son of a builder, so they're actually looking for those projects. They like a house that's a little bit of a project for them, so it's something he enjoys doing. Another cool feature, if you go to sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com, is they have a home value calculator there. That's a really good place to start just to see how much your home is worth. It might be worth more than you think. Sellwithwes.com, a better way to sell your home. All right, gear up. We might have to put our masks back on because the media says so. Let's get to it in our segment, Unbelievable. Oh, for the love. I don't know who's keeping track, but there is a new COVID variant. What's this one called? EG.5. I'm surprised it's not like COVID variant 1,964. I don't know how they name the COVID variants, but you've probably noticed that there is now an uptick in some of the network news of talking about, the rising danger of COVID, etc. CNN's article, new variant EG.5 is on the rise as COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations go up. Look, hospitalizations are not a laughing matter. However, I'm just like, who's keeping track? Like, hey, Nicole. Hey, just wanted to let you know that EG.5 is out in the community right now, and I just wanted you to be aware of the specific name of the specific variant. Does anyone keep track of these things? They should give it a catchier name if they really want people to be able to...
Yeah, they probably should, like the Omicron and...
Yeah, Omicron.
It sounded like a transformer, I think.
It's like, hey, Julie, I can't come to your barbecue. I've got EG.5 COVID. It's just stupid.
I mean, who's getting tested?
Who is getting tested?
I mean, and if you do test, it's at home and you throw it away. I don't understand. Who's going to a testing booth and they're like, I don't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like, hey, if I'm sick, I'm sick.
Yes.
If I'm really sick, I'm going to go to the hospital.
Home for a couple days.
It's fascinating how the coverage of COVID continues to be much different than the coverage of the flu. And I'm not saying that the news never, kind of fear-mongered over the flu and stuff. And I'm not saying the flu doesn't kill people, but they have this special soft spot for COVID. And I kind of wonder, okay, what are they trying to get us riled up over, to cover for? So let's keep going with some of these.
Control.
Before I get to the one that I really love the most. CBS News, let's see. New COVID vaccine and booster shots for fall to be available by end of September. Oh, thank God. Really glad. Are these vaccines going to be more effective than the last vaccines? Are we going to be told that we have to take them in order to keep our jobs? Hey, Nicole, I should have told you this earlier in the hiring process. I'm going to need proof that you're updated on your vaccine.
Okay, yeah. I'm
this
on
new
it.
one and the boosters. I'm serious.
I'll get that right to you.
We work in very close proximity to each other. So I'm actually going to need that by tomorrow.
Okay.
If you could get that over to me.
Deal. I think this is also for children. What? Who's still giving their child a vax?
Like, aren't we past this?
Oh my
and look,
gosh.
hey, here's the thing. You want to get the vaccine? Do it. I don't care. I don't care what you do.
Yes.
I'm going to do what I want to do. I've already said that
the kiddos who aren't getting sick.
No, I've already got the original vaccine. I never got the boosters. I regret getting the original vaccine. I feel like I got it under false pretenses. I feel like I was sold a bill of goods. But yeah, I'm getting this vaccine. But do we want to do?
Also, be upfront about the studies of vax-related illnesses, or at least tell us you're watching it, or you're keeping an eye on it, or you're acknowledging it. Because I've even heard from doctors that they're not allowed to talk about it.
Well, and that's what's so unbelievable about this is like, do what you want to do, but at the same time, is the media really peddling this stuff with the same lack of criticality that they did initially? That kind of, and again, when you do that, right, and when you fail to acknowledge as the media what has been the actual like science, right, what we've learned about this particular vaccine, what we've learned about the susceptibility to children, when you just blatantly ignore that for whatever political reasons that you have, it doesn't build trust, and if your real concern is having Americans understand and acknowledge the science, I don't know what you think you're doing. And this other story from the Los Angeles Times is, to me, like the worst offender. The headline, COVID-19 is heating up all around this summer. Should we be wearing masks again? We shouldn't. I don't think I'll ever put a mask back on my face.
Not happening.
Unless I'm doing some sort of like staining of furniture, like for other reasons. But it's like, how much have we learned? I mean, we went through the whole cycle of, oh no, regular people don't need masks, save those for first responders, and then everybody has to wear a mask, and then those little paper masks don't really work, and then you should be wearing a paper mask over your cloth mask. And it's like, dude, I have seen some people here and there. I was at PCC yesterday, and it probably doesn't surprise you that I saw some folks shopping for veggies at PCC that were all masked up. But again, you do you. I said at the very beginning of this whole ordeal, if you want to wear your mask in bed alone, I don't care. Do what you want to do. But don't fear-monger us, even after you got in trouble for fear-mongering us wrongly for 2 years. And we're just not going to buy into it. It's absolutely unbelievable. All right. Let's see here. Shall we dip outside Washington State momentarily? I think we shall. Before we get to my sister in our segment, Florida Report, I've got to, she and I are going to talk about a story that actually came out in July, but we just found it hilarious. We're like, we've got to discuss this. So this is an article from Politico. So I want, if you post pictures of your exercise routine or, videos, or you're really into it on social, be advised that might mean you are right wing. That's the only explanation. So Politico, this article again from July, the testosterone primary of 2024 is getting out of hand. It goes to say, Francis Suarez is bragging about placing 6th in an Independence Day 5K in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Vivek Ramaswamy, a former nationally ranked junior tennis player, is flexing his weekly pickup victories over former collegiate athletes in Des Moines. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the muscle-bound 69-year-old long-shot Democratic presidential hopeful, went viral for doing pull-ups shirtless at a Gold's Gym. So it basically goes into like how you have like the Republican field that wants to prove to people that they're jacked and full of testosterone and stuff. And I'm just like, really? Well, first of all, and I'll get into this with Miranda, but I think it's a natural sort of thing to want to do when the potential opponent is Joe Biden, right? You're trying to set up some sort of like dichotomy there, but also what's wrong with being fit? I thought, what first lady was it that, it was Michelle Obama, right? Who did like the physical fitness, like, because you know how first ladies, they take on a certain project while they're in the White House. And I think Michelle Obama's, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll look it up during Florida Report, was like making sure kids eat healthy. So
yes.
What on earth would be wrong with politicians who are out in the public eye encouraging fitness in what I believe is one of, if not the most obese countries in the world? Like, I don't understand, besides just blatant political bias against Republicans,
Well, I
what
also
the issue
think
would
it's
be.
funny because they did talk about that during Obama's run.
Yeah.
I mean, they said how good he looked,
Right.
how young and fit he was, and all of that. And then also in this story, and they leave out Chris Christie and Trump. And,
right.
like you leave out all
very
the
out
ones
of
that are
shape.
not in shape.
Right.
And just say that, oh, that's what they're focusing on. But that's just because they're only thinking about Biden on the other side.
Isn't this weird? It's the
so
weirdest
bizarre.
thing. Political. What in the world? Because when you have people like Dianne Feinstein and Joe Biden who are just really, really, I mean, I wouldn't say too old, because again, I think age is relative.
Maybe fragile.
But too fragile to be in the jobs. But you're going to spend less time focusing on that and more time focusing on people who are too physically fit.
Also,
because they're Republicans.
How about the
going
actual
on?
issues, maybe?
What were the actual
maybe
issues?
That.
Oh, for the love. So anyway, we'll dive into it, especially when it comes to Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami. Let's get to it in this edition of Florida Report.
It's not even controversial anymore. People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.
Miranda, sup?
What's up? I was waiting to see what language you decided to say hello to me. I didn't realize it was going to be American.
I'm running out of unique ways to say hi to you without like culturally appropriating. And so I got to come up with a list. Nicole, get on that. I need a list like 100 things long of how to greet Miranda uniquely. So Miranda, right before we brought you on, we talked about this Politico article. Apparently, if you're fit, you're right wing.
Yes.
And I mean, in his defense, your mayor, Francis Suarez, this has always been his thing before he ran for president, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always been his thing. He always had these like mayor fit challenges that he'd put out on Instagram that just kind of show him like working out and doing a challenge for people in the city who want to meet that. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a healthy, fit political leader. Like there's nothing better to like lead by example, and Americans should want to be healthy too. I don't really know why this makes you a right wing nut job.
It's just so strange because it's just the media, like at its worst, looking for reasons to vilify Republicans. It's like you can't focus on policy or whatever it is. You're like, oh, they exercise. Yeah, they're good at athletics. And the other thing about Francis Suarez is he's decidedly moderate. So to try to like push him to the right because he's fit. But I also think that there is probably a reason why on the campaign trail some of these candidates are trying to show their physical prowess, because you have Joe Biden, who, you know, has been struggling in that regard. And so they might be trying to set up a dichotomy between the current president and sort of someone younger, because both of the gentlemen referenced in the Politico article are fairly young. But speaking of DeSantis, he is, if there are going to be GOP debates, sounds like he'll be partaking. Not DeSantis. Did I say DeSantis? Suarez.
Yes. Yeah, he has met one of the criteria that it takes to get on a national stage and debate some of his possible contenders moving into the election, which I think is so exciting for him, because I'm a big fan of him, and I really want to see him on a national stage and get more people to like see him, get in front of them, and like, you know, hopefully he's prepared as you can be. I know that you have to have an obscene amount of knowledge stored in your brain to even compete in a debate in any sort of real way. But it'll be nice for him to get out there and everybody else to kind of get an idea of who he is as a politician and a person.
Yeah, he is one of the lesser known candidates, but he just oozes charisma. I mean, he's not bad looking either. That helps him. I don't mean to be sexist or anything, but, you know, I've interviewed him a couple times. He's very sharp on the issues. So for someone who is really capable but doesn't have a lot of name recognition, making the debate stage is great. Although everyone can make the debate stage these days, because our governor, Jay Inslee, even made the debate stage, and he was hardly even polling at anything. So not a huge accomplishment in some realms. All right, Governor Ron DeSantis is under criticism, and I am going to join that criticism in this regard, but we'll talk about the story first. He has removed an Orlando area district attorney. It's the second time he's done this to an elected prosecutor. Why has he removed her from her position?
He believes that she's not being tough enough on criminals and in prosecuting those criminals within her district. And this is kind of coming on the heels of 2 officers being shot during a traffic stop. And one of the suspects actually was out on bail at the time. And, you know, I think that it's good to keep checks and keep a heavy thumb on prosecutors and make sure that they are upholding the law and following. But I also think that comes with working with them and what they promised the people who elected them. There's a time to be soft on crime, and then there's a time to be tough on crime. And I think that they could easily just have a discussion about that without removing her from office and then just appointing the guy that ran against her.
Well, and look, my whole thing is I wouldn't like it if a Democratic governor did it either. I think that if you are elected by the people, then the people should be the ones to remove you, be it through some sort of effort before an election year or during an election year. So I don't like this. I think it's overreach. And there is something called prosecutorial discretion. I don't like the discretion that this prosecutor and a lot of other soft on crime prosecutors have used, but she was elected by the people she serves. And I'll just read this quick from a CNN article because Florida works a little differently than our state. It says the Florida Constitution allows a governor to remove an elected official for, quote, malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, habitual drunkenness, incompetence, or permanent inability to perform official duties. No previous Florida executive has interpreted that power as broadly as DeSantis. The state Senate can reinstate Worrell, but the chamber is controlled by Republicans closely aligned with DeSantis and have rarely stood in his way. So yeah, it sounds like, but she said that she's going to try to get her job back, like try to run again.
Yeah, she's going to try to get a legal team together and fight it as of, right now currently. And then if she can't make that happen, she's going to run for reelection and try to get reelected. And if the people really were, stood behind her and her politics and her policies and the way she wanted to handle criminals in that area, then they'll reelect her and it'll prove DeSantis wrong. But either way, there's, it's a weird place to be when you have somebody who is going completely in a different direction than the governor and him wanting to correct course on everybody. But if people elect you, then people elect you. And that's just the way it has to be. That's what democracy is all about.
Yeah. And you have to be morally consistent on it. And we have a drunk on power governor in our state. We suffered with one throughout the entirety of the pandemic. And so I don't necessarily think that DeSantis doing the same thing should be celebrated by Republicans because it's a slippery slope. So look at us being morally consistent. Wow. We're just better than everyone else. We're so wonderful. And we just, do exactly what everyone else should do. We're great.
Follow us.
Just joking. That's how it comes across sometimes. All right, Miranda, appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a good weekend.
It's not even controversial anymore. People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.
Meow. Ron DeSantis, if you keep it up there with your weird government overreach, I'm going to have to take you out of our Florida Report Open. Don't make me do it, sir. All right, before we get to questions and comments from the stream today, I've been talking about my success on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic plan. I'm down 36 pounds. I started the plan in November. I lost most of that weight in just 2 months. And now what is it, 6 months later? I feel great. 7 months later, I'm feeling awesome. I like the program because it was easy to follow. It's really clear what you're supposed to do. And they also give you tools to make sure that you can keep the weight off for life without feeling like you're on a full-time diet, no counting calories, no prepackaged meals. So if you've been interested, you've been thinking about it, I'm telling you, you could see a significant change in 1 to 2 months like I did. Schedule a free 15-minute consultation with Dr. Ryan Coogan and his team at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. That's eastsideweightlossclinic.com. Or, I never give this number out, but why not? 425-354-3020. 425-354-3020. I just feel like most people use the internet these days. I don't think many people pick up the telephone. Anyway, before we get to questions and comments, Nicole, should we address the elephant in the room?
Oh, sure.
I got bangs.
You did.
But you were laughing at me because I'm still getting used to them. And my eyelashes are really long, and they keep hitting my bangs.
And your eyelashes, when you blink, make your bangs go boom, 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 boom.
I'm still figuring it out. And Matt, did you put Matt's comment in there?
I put a couple comments in
Hold on,
there,
let me read Matt's. Matt said, first, the bangs look good. I hope everything is okay. I don't know how much, I don't know much about women, but I know a change to bangs are never just a new hairstyle. I'm fine. So let me just set two things straight. I'm not in a crisis. I'm still engaged. My ring is just being resized because I lost so much weight on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic plan. And I cut my bangs for the wedding because we really get off track on the show sometimes. Because I want my hair up, but I wanted some little fringes down. So I wanted some framing. So look, I'm not going through a midlife crisis, although I just ruined my bangs.
And this gives you a little time to adjust or to make adjustments.
Yeah, and I have a big forehead.
In the next
so
month
look,
or so.
Yeah, now I ruined them. Now they're gonna look weird the rest of the show. It's all right. Okay, whatever. Okay, Bill Biz with the $20 super chat. Man, super chat master. What did I call him? Our YouTube sugar daddy.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
To assert that housing is the remedy for the homeless problem is an intentional misdirection, aka a lie. Lee Kings Natch says homelessness is nothing more than yet another money laundering industry for Jay Inslee. Yeah, homelessness industrial complex, absolutely a real thing. Everybody should be bothered by it, even if you absolutely think that you're leading with empathy on this issue. Empathy is making sure every dollar that is supposed to go to the homeless is going to help the homeless. And right now it's not. It's going to bloated government salaries. All right, Brandalyn Beardshear Wood. Housing does not solve the homeless problem. All you're doing is giving homes to people who don't want to pay any bills, you don't want to work. Who's going to pay all the bills for them? The taxpayers. All I see is taking more money from the taxpayer. They aren't going to care for the homes when they won't care for themselves. They have no pride in themselves, let alone a home. And I say this with an experience from my dad, right? Who was addicted to drugs. He was a lifelong alcoholic, and he died in a cheap motel room. And we could have thrown him in $1 million mansion. That wouldn't have worked out for him. So you have to address the underlying reasons why someone isn't already in a stable home or environment. And I would venture a guess, it is a guess, but 99.9% of people have some sort of underlying issue. Because again, if it's just financial, think of like you would have had to either have lost or burnt every bridge you have in life.
Relationships.
To end up on the streets.
Yep.
And even if you're someone who had no meaningful familial connections, there are so many good nonprofits like Mary's Place, where if you're a woman, for instance, with a family fleeing a domestic violence situation, you can get a place to live like that. So those are the easy cases. When you have someone who is not drug addicted, they're not mentally ill, and they actively are seeking help, you should be able to get them help in an instant. So it's insane to me, this idea that, build more homes. You have empty hotels. You fill those hotels and we'll talk about building more homes. Ridiculous. You know who does need more homes is the working class. Homes are way too expensive in this state, so I do believe that we need more workforce housing, working class housing to drive costs down.
Right.
But that's a totally different issue.
Make it easier for younger people to get into houses.
Right. I mean, you got to spend like $1 million on a home these days and show up with cash. That's the real crisis.
It's hard.
All right. Ambulamps. Black Betty. Ambulamps. I wonder if that's what it is. Okay, anyway. Ambulamps. Anyway, it's really about money for the salaries that pay the people that run these organizations, not about solving homelessness. 100% agree. Private name on YouTube. Wow, so secretive. Solving homelessness is about giving people a sense of purpose beyond themselves. When they feel included, not ostracized, and part of a larger collective, they will self-integrate back into society. I do think that's part of it. I don't think it's ground zero, because I don't think that you can find a greater purpose if you are in the cloud of substance abuse or in the cloud of a mental health crisis. But I do agree that making sure that people feel like they can be part of a community, they can contribute. I think we don't talk enough about jobs and job programs for people who are getting back on their streets, because jobs can provide you a sense of community and a sense of purpose. Andy says, conservatives are loath to extend the influence of government in our lives, but it's apparent that we have neglected its employment for the reasons for which it was intended, to protect and defend us and to protect us from the government itself. I'm not sure what was that in reference to my Ron DeSantis and government overreach. All right, on the drug bust, Matthew says, bail is set low because of activist judges pushing social justice. That is justice based on what intersectional group you fall into. You are not responsible for your actions because equity. I agree 1,000,000%. All right, on COVID, AvGeek Joe with a $5 super chat, which I shall read, says, I proudly identify as patriotically vaccinated in support of public health to fight the bloody commie Chinese COVID-19. I mean,
unquote.
End quote. End quote. Paid $5 just for me to read that. Dan says, I am done with them vaccines and did not get a booster, as too many people and friends have died from heart attacks and strokes that have had boosters. All right. Kevin Bryan says they need more money. Pfizer's stock is down right now. Yeah, that might be part of it. Marla says, I love, love, love your hair. Chrisman says, always a fan, but not sure about the bangs. I just need to get them right. They're going to be off for the rest of the show today. Listen.
It's going to be different. It's okay.
It's fine.
Different is good.
Yeah, it's hard to get used to. But I did have a monster forehead. I just think this is going to be better.
I don't think you have a monster forehead.
Okay.
But I think it's fun to change it up here and there.
It's fun to change it up. I haven't had bangs since I was like a freshman in college. So, or maybe a little after that. Anyway, okay. But I appreciate your honesty, Chrisman Wilkie. I do appreciate it. Okay, good questions and comments on the show as always today. Shall we get to our closing sanity check? It's going to be short and sweet. I want to reiterate something I've said over and over and over again on the show, and that is you cannot trust people to solve a problem if they refuse to properly identify what the problem is. And that is true with homelessness. When you have politicians who say over and over that the solution to solving the homeless crisis is housing, we cannot trust those politicians to fix it. It would be insane to do so because they refuse to actually identify what the cause of the problem is. And as is evidenced by Jonathan Cho and Ari Hoffman's report today, it is crystal clear. The problem is not caused by a lack of housing units. When you are turning landlords away who have units to offer, that is proof positive that housing is not the solution. And that has been your sanity check for today. And that has been today's episode of Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. We have a really sad, actually, I was going to say wonderful. We have a good interview on Sundays with Subscribers this week, but it's on a really tragic topic, again, about our criminal justice system not doing what needs to be done to protect victims and to penalize criminals. So for subscribers, we will see you on Sunday's episode of Sundays with Subscribers. For the rest of you, we will see you Monday on the live show, but I sure do hope that you join us on Sunday by signing up at undividedpod.com. That's undividedpod.com. That is how you can support our mission to give common sense a comeback while keeping us independent for just $5 a month. See you guys later.